I think The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time is probably the most overrated video game of all time. And I really want to stress, when I say overrated, I don't mean that it's bad or like overrated as in it's a terrible game. I simply mean that when people say that it's one of the greatest games ever made or a perfect 10 out of 10, that rating is overinflated. The game is closer to maybe like a 5 or a 6 out of 10. Not great, but not bad. Just overrated. One last thing I want to get out of the way before I get into the meat and potatoes of it is this is not rage bait. I already know there's gonna be a bunch of people that come in the comments and say, "Oh, you're saying stupid things so that you can get likes and comments." And like, have you seen my views? I have like 100 views. Like this isn't rage bait, and if it is rage bait, it's not very good. This is genuinely what I feel, that the game is overrated and should be considered a okay game, a good game maybe, but it is not one of the greatest games ever made. Let me start with something that I actually do like. I want to get out of the way just so it doesn't look like, oh, you're an absolute hater who just hates everything. There are some good aspects of the game. The music is undeniably one of the greatest soundtracks. I will give it that. The music in Legend of Zelda is always great, but Ocarina of Time has some especially great music. So I'm not a hater. I can see things that I do like about the game, and there are things worth praising. The music is one of those things. When I first got a bass guitar, one of the first things I learned how to play was Zelda's Lullaby, because it's just that iconic. I love the sounds, I love the notes, I love the music, and there's plenty of other great songs and tracks in here, so we can all agree the music in Legend of Zelda is great. The other thing I'll give it praise for is that it did help carve and pave the way for a lot of different games. There's obviously a lot of people who say that they've been inspired by The Legend of Zelda, so it definitely has a foothold, or I guess maybe a footnote is a better way of putting it, in the history of gaming, in that it inspired a lot of different things, and that is a good thing as well. Last thing I'm going to talk about before I get into it is that I'm not going to use the argument for its time. I don't think that you can say a game is the greatest game of all time for its time. If a game is truly that great, it is a timeless game that transcends that. Look at Doom 1993. When we talk about how great Doom 1993 is, it's never for its time. It's just a great game, period. It's still fun to go back to and play now. When we talk about original Mario or Super Mario World or Mario 3, no one says it was great for its time. They just say it was a great game. So saying Ocarina of Time was a great game for its time, maybe that's true, but that it can't qualify for the greatest game of all time if we're only looking at it for its time. If we're looking at the greatest game of all time, we have to look at the accumulation of all of gaming history, and I just don't think this meets the mark for that. Okay, let's talk about the bad. Obviously, number one, the controls. Now, a lot of old games have absolutely awful controls, and this is certainly one of them, which is again one of those things where I'm talking about, yes, for its time it had controls like everything else, but it can't qualify for the greatest game of all time with terrible controls. These terrible tank controls plagued so many games with like the camera. You're constantly fighting the camera, you're constantly fighting the menus. The controls suck. I think pretty much everyone can agree the controls are awful in this game, and the camera, no better. Not to mention the whole like reversing the owl. Everyone knows the owl, right? You walk down to Hyrule Fields for the first time, and the owl asks you whether you want to hear him yes or no again, and it automatically selects on yes, and you have to go through it multiple times. It's super frustrating and just an example of bad controls. Not to mention later when you talk to him, it automatically highlights no, so it's not even consistent. Can we all agree that the controls are bad? Like, even if you look at the reviews for like Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time on the 3DS, which is controversial from what I've seen, there's a lot of people who don't like some of the changes they made. One of the number one changes I see all the time is they fixed the controls. The other thing people bring up when we talk about the remake is the improved graphics, and that is worth noting. Yes, the N64 had good graphics for its time, but again, we're not talking about at its time. Looking back on it now, it's ugly, right? I think we can all admit that this did not age well. There's certainly stylized games. You look at like the NES, SNES era of like JRPGs that we can all say, wow, that still looks great today. I don't think anyone is saying that Ocarina of Time still looks great today. And while you don't have to have the most cutting edge graphics to be a good game, when we're talking about the greatest game ever made, graphics is certainly gonna be a part of that conversation. And I don't think any Nintendo 64 game is going to end up on that conversation about great graphics, because it looks kind of goofy now. Yes, it was a stylistic choice, but it's not good. it's not good by modern standards. Now let's talk about the big one. And I know this is going to upset some people, but the puzzles. Legend of Zelda, at its core, has always been an action-adventure puzzle game. There's always been puzzles to solve, but the puzzles are almost insulting to call puzzles, right? Let's talk about some of the puzzles that we get in the beginning of the game. The first things you're experiencing, yes, it's kind of teaching you the ropes of the game, but to call these puzzles is an insult to puzzle games. We have such puzzles as there's a bomb growing out of the ground and a giant wall that looks different than every other wall. What could you possibly do here? Another one of my favorites is you're locked in a room and there is one lit torch and one unlit torch and a locked door. What do you do? Or one you'll see in this dungeon, the Dongo's Cavern, where it's hey, there's a door and it's shut and there's a giant eye above the door. So when you're talking about it being a puzzle game, it's clearly not a good puzzle game. The puzzles are not good. And if you Google things like best puzzle games of all time or some of the greatest puzzle games of all time, Ocarina of Time is never even brought up in the list. You get things like Talos Principle, The Room, Baba's You. There's lots of great puzzle games. I think we're actually getting some of the better puzzle games we've ever had with things like Blueprints trying to work together that puzzle. So it's clearly having some great things. But again, we're talking about the quote, one of the greatest games of all time. And it's a puzzle adventure and no one talks about the puzzles because I think we can all agree the puzzles are garbage. What do you have here? You have a giant button with a statue that's movable next to it. What do you do? It's not a puzzle. There is no puzzle here. This is a puzzle for toddlers. The other part of the genre, it's a puzzle adventure game. Let's talk about the adventuring. You've got Hyrule Fields, which is absolutely empty. There's nothing in there. It's cool. And again, for its time, having a huge open world like that was unseen. So that was definitely a revolutionary thing. It was definitely something that helped to push the gaming industry forward. But it's nowhere near greatest game of all time levels. It's just a giant empty field full of nothingness. And things like the Death Valley going up to the Dongo Cavern, it's just one thin line that goes up with repeating rocks and such. It's just the same thing over and over and over again. Zelda's castle was really cool to see, but I gotta say, people really, really knock modern games. I think Spider-Man's the best example of this, where we talk about a forced stealth section that really interrupts the gameplay. People hated on Spider-Man for the forced stealth section, but no one brings up the forced stealth section that brings up for Hyrule Castle, right? You have to do the stupid little hiding, walking around mini game to get into Hyrule Castle, and it controls awful. And yet everyone conveniently overlooks that when we pan modern games for it. But I think The Legend of Zelda had one of the first forced stealth sections, and it was absolutely awful implementation. Now let's talk about the story a little bit. The story isn't anything terrible. I mean, it's kind of your standard, the fated hero has to come and save everyone, right? It's nothing groundbreaking. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just kind of generic. How many times have we heard the story before where you were born the chosen one, you have a destiny you have to fulfill, so you gotta go run around and power up in order to fulfill the destiny. Now, I know that there is a lot more to the overall timeline, because they did the whole now there's all the games are intertwined and there's 3 different timelines, the Downfall and the Cloud King. I don't know. I don't follow the lore of Legend of Zelda all that much. Ever since they said that there's all these different timelines, I haven't been interested in it. But again, it's not bad. It's generic. It's just kind of your hero's tale retold through Legend of Zelda, so nothing to write home about, nothing bad. Again, we're talking about the greatest game of all time, right? The greatest game of all time should have a little bit more oomph in the story department, right? So when you combine all these things, bad graphics, bad controls, an okay story, great music, again, I can't emphasize that enough, great music, bad puzzles, and meh adventure, you simply don't have enough points to call it the greatest game of all time. You've got an okay experience. And I think it's okay to call the game just okay. I think the only reason why people call it one of the greatest games of all time is purely blinded by nostalgia. If they released this game, if no one had ever played Ocarina of Time before and they released it right now in 2026, I guarantee the game would be universally panned as generic, boring, ugly, good music. But if you were to re-release Mario Bros for the first time, people would call it stylized graphics, amazing gameplay, tight controls. If you were to release Doom 1993, people would be talking about how amazing all the secrets are, the fast gameplay, the rivetingness of it. Like there's all these games that could be released in our modern day that would be praised. I just don't think Ocarina of Time is one of them. If you made it this far, I want to thank you. I'm very confident that people are going to make it a minute in before they just absolutely hate on me for saying what is, quote, a controversial opinion. But again, that is my opinion. That is my experience with the game. I never really played this as a kid, so I don't have that nostalgia factor for it. And I'm not a huge Legend of Zelda fan because most of the games feel this way, where the puzzles are just like, oh, look, there's a hole in the wall and you've got bombs. What do you do with it? Like the puzzles don't really feel like good puzzles to me. So if I want a puzzle game, I'm going to go play a better puzzle game like Portal or The Room or Blueprints. And if I want an adventure game, well, there's a million other adventure games out there. So for me, Legend of Zelda has always kind of been the worst of all worlds. But I did like the second one, which also people hate that opinion. I thought that when they turned it into an RPG, that is what the game should have been. But that's a conversation for another time. So thank you for listening. And if you've made it this far and listened to everything and you still hate what I have to say, you are welcome to put it down in the comments. I just wanted people to give it a fair shot to listen to the entirety of what I had to say before you said, no, you're stupid and you're wrong. So if you made it this far, you now have the right to say, no, you're stupid and you're wrong. Put it in the comments down below if you so feel. Thank you for watching and have a blessed day.